Hi lovelies, it's Candy here. I wanted to do a VR today to Nancy over at Nancy-TexasRose. She has a really interesting discussion on her channel at the moment called The Elephant in the Tarot Room. And she's trying to open a dialogue up about the tarot community and their thoughts on reading cards intuitively and relying on that sort of skill as opposed to just purely going with card meanings. From a very early age, she realised that she thought symbolically, she thought in symbols, and that was her language. And that, I think, really resonated with me because although I am relatively new to tarot, I've always said, and I've said it more than once on this channel, that it doesn't feel like I'm new to tarot because I feel like I've been doing it all my life, because what I have done all my life is my art practice. Right from earliest memories before we moved to Wales. I moved to Wales when I was 7. So this is like going back to like age 4, 5. I can remember realising that people didn't see colours the same way I did, and they didn't link colours, and they didn't see layers of colour. That was the first thing I realised, that I was picking up on slightly different ways of seeing. And then like spotting patterns between shapes and putting meanings to shapes and pattern, and then them repeating and me seeing them elsewhere and then making connections in my thought process. And by the time I got to 10, Mum and Dad had already got me a caravan in the garden to get me out of the house, because I would find bits of rubbish and I would see a pattern in it and it would link to an idea I'd got. And basically they just had to get it out of the house because I was bringing home so much stuff to draw and make and put into sketchbooks and glue and textures on top of textures. I totally get that idea of thinking in symbolism. So when I was first drawn to tarot, just somebody said, I can't believe you don't have a tarot deck and you're not really into tarot. My first deck was this one, the Wild Unknown, and it was just pure fluke. At this point I didn't realise that there was this whole world of decks out there. I had no idea, and it was just purely because my best friend on FaceTime, this was the deck she just happened to have had. I had no idea there was any hype around it. I had no idea it was popular. I didn't even know anybody else knew about this deck. At this point I hadn't discovered YouTube and the tarot tube at all. But when I saw this deck over the phone, it absolutely tied in to the way I have always seen things in my art. The lines, the colours, the directions of lines, the repeating patterns. And we were doing readings over FaceTime with each other, me and my friend. And we were reading the cards completely intuitively, and I was in tears. And I immediately went out and bought this deck, ordered this deck, still with no idea that there was all this hype and it was so popular. It was only months and months later that I realised that this deck was as stunningly popular as it is, and realised what I'd actually bought. But it was purely the symbolism and the patterns, and it spoke my language. And I did read this intuitively, and I would say right from the very get-go, because I've always done it in my art, and of course if you're creating your own art, there's no meaning apart from the meaning you put into shapes and patterns and lines and colours. It was just completely natural for me to pick up cards and to find the stories within them and to let them speak to me purely through the images without any of the meaning. And I love that. I absolutely love that. I don't find it hard to do it at all. It just comes completely naturally to me. It's just what I do. However, having said that, because I am very aware that there is this whole history and knowledge base, I didn't just want to leave it there. I love books and I love studying, and for me, I just couldn't wait to learn these real meanings. And once I discovered Tarot Tube and realised that there was more than one system, there was Marseille, there was Thoth, there was this Rider-Waite-Smith system, I had no idea what I'd got here. It was just like a Pandora's box of treasures, and I couldn't wait to rip the lid off and jump in. So I did. I started ordering books. I started watching videos, and it's just been wonderful. So yes, I would say I'm an intuitive reader, and as I'm travelling through my tarot journey, I'm realising that more and more. But I'm also somebody that loves to study, and I love all these books. It's just been like rabbit holes of treasure to tumble down. This one I saw on Ethany's channel and really being recommended. So I'm still working my way through this. This one, and you can see, look, it's full of notes. Look, it's got loads of notes going on in here. This one as well, for initial meanings. I just find it so fascinating. I went out and bought a Rider-Waite deck, and just thought, well, let's just pick the most popular system. So I got this one originally because I really wanted to study with the classic decks and this classic imagery that I was seeing in the books. And I've delved into the world of study, and I've put some serious hours in it. I mean, I love it. I've started studying Thoth. It's opened up avenues on the Tree of Life and Kabbalah and astronomy. This deck really speaks to me as well. Again, it's the patterns, it's the lines. Sacred geometry, I've started studying that because of my interest in the patterns and the lines and the symbolism. I mean, this deck is really beautiful. And studying the back of that card, just completely mind-blowing and just fascinating, just wonderful. I love all my books. I find them fascinating. Some of them are still not read. This one's not read yet. I've just fallen into the study. I've just absolutely loved it. So yes, I have got book knowledge, and I am continuing to learn, and I'm never going to stop learning. There is so much. In fact, that's the problem, I think, is try not to give yourself a hard time, because there's so much to learn, there's so much I want to know, and I want to know it all like yesterday. But you just can't learn it all in one night or 1 week or 1 year. You just can't. So I am a foot in both camps, and I think that's fine. I don't think it is a choice of one or the other. In my art, I'm looking around. I've got art right here from that I haven't put away yet. In my art, I layer. You can see this is a textile piece on canvas, and this is pencil work drawing, and the picture is layered up with different voile and embroidery and applique. Look, you can see the pencil drawing there. So I layer, and I've always layered in my artwork. And I think that's what I do in my tarot practice. I sling cards, and I like to layer my skills. So I layer my book knowledge, and I also layer my intuition. Here's an oil painting that has got embroidery. I mean, you can see I've cut out the canvas here, and I've layered lace. I think that's why I use netting and lace so much, because you can see through it. I love that idea of layering. Even in my drawings, I tend to layer, and I am bringing it, because tarot speaks to me with the same cosmic energy that that my art speaks to me. My art and the tarot, it's the same language, it's the same energy I'm tapping into. It doesn't surprise me at all that I card sling and I layer. I'm a layer slinger. Let's call it a layer slinger, because I will put cards down, and some readings it's the book meanings that come through, and it just, something in my soul knows that that's what the cards are saying. That's the story within them. Other times I will put the cards down, and the book meanings kind of dissolve away, and I see something else. And I do wonder what that force is that then comes in that says, no, this is a intuitive reading, or this is a card study meaning reading. But it's never really a conscious decision. The last video where I did a card reading with the Guild Tarot, it's funny because thinking about that reading that I did up the caravan, that was a mixture of both. I was doing card meaning, and then two of the cards just took over and ran on their own tangent, and my intuition kicked in. So there was that layering. So for me, it's not a choice between one or the other. And as I've been buying decks and just delighting in them, I just love them so much. It's funny that I'm realising the ones that really, really delight me are decks like the Dreams of Gaia that come with a slightly different system, because it's just nice to get away from those card meanings that don't necessarily get in the way, but the framework is very, very set. And sometimes for me, I get really excited when I see a deck that, although it might follow it roughly, there is a divergence away. And I don't think it's about fiddling with the meanings. I just think it's about adding. It's about that layering. It's all your skills coming in. This is why I love the Rain Coast Pocket Tarot. This one I just can't put the Rider-Waite meanings on it. I can a little bit in some of the minors, but a lot of them, especially the majors or the pentacles, I find it really, really hard to step away from my intuitive reading of this deck. And I think that's why I am so in love with it. I call it my soul narrative. And I think I use the word soul narrative. I've not thought this through. I'm just speaking as I'm thinking. I think I use the word soul narrative for when the reading intuitively takes over. Another one, the Marielle as well. It's another one that I got really excited about because it's slightly different. And then I've ordered, although I'm on depth year, I have ordered a few decks for my birthday and Christmas coming up and put them aside. And it's funny that they are, they're more abstracty, they're more shapes and colours and lines. There's a lot of sacred, I've bought 2 sacred geometry sets, just because they speak to me, and I think as I buy decks and look at the ones that I'm reaching for, and look at the ones that I still flip through them and just squeal with joy, they are the ones that are a little bit different, which I do love. But I don't think the system needs to be particularly different to read intuitively. You can read intuitively with any deck. And Nancy also spoke about this intuitive way of thinking. When she talked about creativity, and she linked it to poetry or writing or making art or music. And I totally get that. And she talked about when you lose yourself in a project. And I've often said when I make art, for the first little bit of working with a new piece, it will be me, just me, but then something does come in and take over. And I always breathe a sigh of relief when I know the piece has taken on its own life, and then it starts telling me what to do, rather than every decision being on me. It's like something else comes in and takes over. And that's why I've often described my art studio as an altar. The whole room is an altar. It's where I meditate. My last video, I did a spell drawing in my leaf video. There's magic in there, and I do think of myself as an art witch, because that connection to the universe and that power that's available does happen when I'm making art. And this happened in a spectacular way, in a project that I made that's been exhibited around the country called $100 and Me. I have spoken about this project before. And it was a project that I made when I was deep in the throes of abuse, but it was hidden and I had no idea what was going on. And I started creating artwork every day. So you can say you do a single card draw. For me, this is almost like I did do a card draw, but I was actually physically drawing cards. Although these aren't cards, these are drawings, but there's a similarity there. It was one image a day. And the ideas for these images did not come from me. The whole project was prompted by external energy, whispers, voices, whatever you want to call it. But I'm telling you about this project because it does make that link between why I feel I can be a newbie, but say clearly I feel like I've been doing this all my life, because it's exactly what I've always done with imagery in my artwork, whilst being tapped into something else. This imagery came about when I looked at a vintage illustration of a paper doll, one of those that you would cut out, and it had all the cut marks all around, and fold it and cut out paper clothes for it and fold them on. And that figure, that static figure being manipulated, she whispered to me, "This is you, you have something to learn." And I started making images. I don't know whether you're going to see these. They're inside sewn wallets because they were put on a art trail. But I did one a day, and I literally didn't know what I was making, but I just knew that I had to make them. And you can see this is doll number 1. Each one is numbered. This is very much like the illustration that was looking at me, and it says cut and make, and it was just that violent feeling of just being shaped by everybody else, although at the time I had no idea what I was doing. these are not in order. So this is doll 96. So you can see by the time I got up to doll 96, things had changed quite a bit. This is doll 83. So you can see here her body parts. There's just the torso there, and there's other bits of her that have literally been just thrown away. And all of these lines and colours, the fact there's numbers coming in, they all mean something. Nothing is in there randomly. Even the circles that you see in there and these lines, nothing is random. Everything has a meaning. And it's a meaning that developed like a conversation, but a conversation with a paper doll, literally. And you can see the torso here. All of this means something. The head's like juggling balls. A lot of them are very, very abstract. It's where my love of paper cutting came in. Even the paper cutting, the technique isn't random. That was the idea of feeling like a void, feeling defined by everything that I wasn't anymore, and being made to disappear, and being so unimportant I disappeared. And every day something new came in. And this paper doll, it was something external to me, and it literally lowered the veil that had me blinded for years. And it was this paper doll that made me be able to start to see clearly what was going on around me. I mean, they're quite different, a lot of them. I mean, look at doll 41. Yeah, so it took me a while to revisit this project. It sat, before it got exhibited, it sat packed away, and I couldn't bear to open it, because the most amazing thing is I did this every day. And on $100, it was the day my marriage ended. So I did 100 dolls, and on day 100, my whole world imploded. And when I look back, when I did finally years later get brave enough to open the box, because everything then stopped. Everything stopped. My artwork, everything stopped. When I went back to the box and laid out the 100 dolls, it was all there, and it was a path of discovery that made complete sense in hindsight. There were aspects of it that had made sense. That there's the tower crumbling down. That's what the doll became. There were aspects of this as I was making that were aha moments, and was preparing me for what was to come. But the fact that everything imploded on $100 for me was really, really symbolic. So I'm showing you this project because I want to make that connection between those universal energies that float down to us. For me, it's through art, also poetry and writing and music, because I am a pianist. For a while, I had to take time off to decide whether I wanted to go to art college or music college. And both of those things, I find this kind of connection to some other energy that comes in and takes over. But I'm showing you the project because I just wanted to make that link that I think there is something we can tap into that takes us beyond ourselves into some sort of bigger energy that can give you whispers of the future. It can tell you, it can predict, it is predictive. It can also support you in self-development. It can do both. It's a layering of it's a layering that can open up many doors and many alternatives, and just open your eyes on bigger pictures and clearer pictures and possibilities and outcomes. And it can predict devastation and a body cut to pieces in a disappearing pool. I mean, that was doll 56. If that isn't a prediction, I don't know what is. And that's done in lines and imagery, and that's what I've been doing since I was about 4, and I'm 51 now. So you can see that when I then saw this, I thought to myself, that's what I've been doing for the last 48 years. So although I'm new to tarot, I am not new to this symbolic language and this symbolic way of thinking, but I don't think it needs to be either or. I think like my art style, for me, and I am just talking about for me, it can be layered. It can be texture on top of texture, on top of texture, on top of knowledge, on top of knowledge, on top of knowledge. And then you let that external energy or power, however you want to say, come in to guide you as to what's appropriate for whatever reading. It's just looking for that, just relaxing into it for me. Anyway, that's what it is. And then it's always there. It's not well, what shall I do this time? It's just there. So that's how I think about this intuitive reading. I can't imagine reading the cards without tapping into that intuitive story that's there. I can't imagine it without layering as and when. A layered slinger is what I am. I am a card slinger, which I love, which I know is Kelly Anne Madox term, which I have always adored. I am a slinger, but I'm a layered slinger, and I've always done it, just not necessarily with cards I draw, but I've always done it with cards I draw. Okay, guys, that's my 10 cents on this topic, and I hope it made sense. And I will leave all of Nancy's links down below. And I'd just love to know what other people think about this. I know there's going to be lots of different practices. We're not all made to read the same. We're not all made to love study. Some people are, some people aren't, and I think that's all fine. I think your practice is your practice, and you do what works for you. So I would be fascinated to know if anybody else feels that there's this energy that they tap into where something else comes in and takes over. What are you doing that isn't tarot when that comes in? Is it cooking for you? Is it walking in nature? See, sometimes that happens to me in nature as well. But anyway, that's my 10 cents about it. I'm going to shut up now. I've been talking long enough. I'll leave Nancy's links below, and I will see you next time. Bye, guys.